think the Mazda CX-3 is just a bit too small for your needs and the CX-5's maybe just a touch too large? Well, this could be the SUV you need in your life. It's the new Mazda CX-30 and it splits the difference between the CX-3 and CX-5 in terms of size. But what do you get to make it worth your while? I'll go through that in detail in this video, or you can read my full review at the CarsGuide site. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and also hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all our latest videos. But for now, let me show you the size of the CX-30 and how it stacks up to some of its rivals. For a lot of people out there, the Mazda CX-30 is going to be the right size of SUV. That's because it's very close to mainstream rivals like the Mitsubishi ASX and Nissan Qashqai. But you might be more interested in how it compares to a couple of Mazda's own SUVs. Here's what it's like compared to the smaller CX-3, and here's what it's like compared to the bigger CX-5. So it could be right for you, or it might not. Well, let's take a look at the practicality and what impact the size of the CX-30 has on it. We'll start at the boot. Now, you might be one of those customers who wants a small SUV, but needs a big boot. Unfortunately, the CX-30 probably won't be suited to your needs because in here there's just 317 litres of cargo capacity. Now that's not a lot compared to the better small SUVs in this segment, but it's still big enough for a couple with a couple of suitcases. We haven't got a pram or a set of suitcases here to show you just how big it is, but importantly, there is a spare wheel. It's a space saver under the boot, and in this particular model there's also a subwoofer in there as well. Now let's take a look at the back seat and see whether the practicality is a little bit better in there. So backseat space in the CX-30 isn't as exceptional as some of the other SUVs in this segment. I've got this driver's seat set for my height. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 feet tall, and there's not a lot of space back here. The knee room is quite limited. Headroom is a little bit limited in this model as well because it's the G25 Astina, which means it gets the sunroof up the front. So there's this sort of caving in feeling in the back. It's not claustrophobic like some of the other small SUVs that you'll find in this part of the market, but it's not necessarily an airy experience either. Although this white leather trim does make it feel pretty plush back here. And there are some nice elements. You've got rear seat directional air vents. Now they are standard on the top 3 specs, but not the base model. And also not standard in the base model is a flip down armrest with cup holders, but you get it in all the other specs available. There are no rear seat charge ports, which could be a concern if you've got youngsters, because we all know how much they like to stay charged up and connected, but otherwise it's mostly pretty good. If you're looking at storage as a priority, there's only one map pocket and it's filled with a driver's logbook and owner's manual, which maybe you might want to leave at home, but there's also bottle holders in the doors too. Now, let's check out the front seat. So as I mentioned in the back seat, we're in the G25 Astina model, which is the top spec version, and it feels pretty plush in here, I've got to say. There's elements of this cabin that I really like this brown finish that runs across the dashboard and also onto the elbow pads and the center armrest. I think really looks great with this white leather trim, but there are also elements to the cabin in the lower grade models, which I'm not so convinced by, including that padded section or whatever material it is up there. It's blue in the lower grade models and it just doesn't quite look right, especially when combined with the red exterior paint, but that's a personal opinion. I think there are also elements to the cabin which could be better. There's an 8.8-inch screen. It's not a touch screen though, and that means that your smartphone mirroring, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is rendered pretty useless because you've got to use a rotary dial to control it rather than the screen itself. The whole point of phone mirroring is that you use the screen because it mirrors your phone screen, but that might matter to you, or you might just connect to Bluetooth and use your phone that way. There's also nice elements like dual zone climate control, and the dash design is really smart, including this nice digital display for the driver. There's also a head-up display on every single model, and the steering wheel is a beautiful shape and nice to hold. But if you buy the base model, it's not leather clad. It's a plastic wheel, and it doesn't feel very nice in your hands. In terms of front seat practicalities, there's obviously a pretty big center console bin with a sliding lid, which is nice. There's 2 USB ports. There's no smartphone charging in any model, which is a bit of a frustration. There is a pair of cup holders between the front seats, and you also get decent sized door pockets with bottle holders. So it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to overall impressions of the CX-30, and it really is pretty much spec dependent. If you're buying one of the upper spec models, it's going to feel pretty good. The lower grade models, not so much. Now, at this point, I'd usually say, well, let's go for a drive and see what it's like. But first, I think it's really important for me to set the scene for you about the pricing and spec of each of the CX-30 models. The CX-30 range has 2 engines available, and it's easier to look at the range that way, so we'll take a look at the entry-level 2-litre model first off. Mazda delineates these models as G20, with the engine producing 114 kilowatts of power and 200 newton meters of torque. These models are front-wheel drive with a 6-speed automatic transmission as standard. The G20 Pure opens the range at just under $30,000 before on-road costs. The G20 Evolve adds bigger wheels and a few other extras, and $1,500 to the price. Next up is the G20 Touring, which adds even more additional specifications. And topping the G20 lineup is the Astina, coming loaded with luxury goodies. Then there's the G25 models, which have a bigger 2.5-litre engine with more power and more torque, considerably more, in fact. These ones still have a 6-speed automatic, but unlike the G20, the G25 has the choice of 2-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The G25 is available in 2 trim levels. You can get the G25 Touring, which is the more affordable model, priced from $36,490 for the front-wheel drive, and if you think you need all-wheel drive, you'll have to add a further $2,000 to the price. The G25 Astina range-topping version tips over the $40,000 mark for the 2-wheel drive, and the flagship all-wheel drive G25 Astina is pretty pricey, like Audi and Volvo pricey. You're probably wondering exactly what you get in each of the different variants. Well, I didn't want to bore you with all the nitty-gritty details in this video, but you can find a full breakdown of the specs and standard equipment at the CarsGuide site. Now, let me tell you what the CX-30's like to drive. I'm driving the G25 Astina model. So it's the 2.5-litre engine, so the more powerful engine, and you can instantly feel that it's got more power and torque than the G20 versions. Obviously, it does have bigger outputs, and you can feel that when you're accelerating from a standstill or if you're rolling on the throttle through open country roads like we're on now. It is a generally pretty impressive engine. It's not necessarily technologically advanced in terms of what the others out there in this segment might offer in terms of smaller downsized turbo engines, and you don't have that instant torque down low in the rev range. It does like to rev, and it can be a little bit vocal when it does, but it's got a really good 6-speed transmission, and that's whether you're buying the G20 or the G25. It's a smart transmission that does a good job. It does have a tendency to want to aim for a higher gear to save fuel, and there is a pretty good fuel consumption story to be told here, especially in the 2.5 litre. It's just 0.1 of a litre more than the 2 litre engine, and with the all-wheel drive system, which is coming soon, it has just 0.3 of a litre more fuel consumption than the 2 litre. So that's going to matter to you, and that's partly because this 2.5 litre engine has cylinder deactivation, which means it can run on 2 cylinders under light loads. But when it comes to day-to-day use, there's enough pep, there's enough pulling power, and while it might be a little bit noisy at lower revs or at idle, it's mostly pretty good. But the more impressive element of the CX-30 is the way it handles itself on the road, and especially at higher speeds and through corners, it just sticks itself down to the surface really impressively. It's pretty playful as well. If you like to have a bit of fun behind the wheel in twisty sections of road, you will enjoy this car because it is fun to drive, and I guess that's important because it's a Mazda trait. The ride comfort is mostly pretty good, especially at higher speeds. It does feel a little bit more composed. At lower speeds, especially on the 18-inch wheels, you will notice that it can feel a bit sharp if you hit a sharp edge, for example, and particularly the rear end can feel a little bit juddery. And I mean, it's not going to be a deal breaker for the majority of people out there, but you just maybe need to take it for a drive on some rougher city surfaces if you are considering taking one for a test drive. One other thing that I would probably hope was a little bit better is the brake pedal feel. It's quite spongy, especially the further down the pedal you get, and it can be just a touch disconcerting if you are going maybe a little bit too quickly into a corner. Another element to the drive experience that I've enjoyed is the steering. It's very predictable, it's got nice weighting to it, and it's very much in tune with the driver's feel for the road. And other SUVs in this segment can make you feel a little bit remote from what's happening when you're driving. Not the case with the CX-30. On the launch drive, I've also spent some time in the G20 model, the entry level with the 2-litre engine. And I've got to say, while it is a little bit breathless compared to the G25, it's going to be fine for most people's needs. If you're wondering about the ownership prospects of the CX-30, there's a 5-year warranty covering unlimited kilometres, which is great if you plan to hang on to the car for a while and do a fair bit of distance. And you get the same cover for roadside assist too. But Mazda insists upon servicing intervals every 12 months, which is good, or 10,000 Ks, which isn't so great, especially if you do a lot of distance. More detail can be found in the written review at the CarsGuide site. The Mazda CX-30 is an impressive compact SUV and one that has the right size to meet a lot of buyers' needs. You might need a little bit more room in the back seat or the boot, and if you do, I guess there's a CX-5 that could fill that purpose in your life. But as it is, it's an impressive and pretty plush compact SUV in its own right. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose a CX-30 or something completely different? Let us know. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit subscribe, hit like, and also hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with all our latest videos.